Hello and welcome, Earthlings and Beyond. It is Wednesday, February 12th, 2025, year of our Lord. And we are live today. And,
in a world of deceit, telling the truth is a revolutionary act.
Isn't that the truth? I can't tell you just how truth that is, that telling the truth has become a revolutionary act. So good evening, Earthlings and Beyond. Thank you for sharing your time with me. I greatly appreciate it. I wasn't going to do an episode. This is episode 21. God, where is the time going? But I just didn't want to also leave that much space between videos. So I have a lot going on and a lot of projects going on and stuff. So please give a like, share out the video, hit that notification button on YouTube at Broom Media. Let's get this party started. Tonight, we're going to talk about Trump doubles down on Gaza. Time to ditch the penny. Elon is watching Elon. Steve Bannon defrauds mega out of millions. Consumer sentiment falls. And are you the one getting the shaft from the tariffs regarding aluminum and steel? And finally, you better say what we approve or you get banned from the Oval Office. This and a whole lot more, so strap yourself in, grab a nice cold one, and let's get this party started. Just a reminder, of course, our cause is the cause for all mankind. We are fighting for their liberty while defending ours. Now let's get into it.
Excuse me, Bobby. Donald Trump here. How you doing, buddy? Love this guy. Listen. We are going to make Gaza great again.
Thank you. I wonder where my background music is. I don't know. It didn't pull up this time. I don't know why. It's kind of cool. Okay, there we go. So story number one I'm going to start out with is making Gaza great again. Trump is now doubling and tripling down on the Gaza development plan. Trump says that the Palestinian people will not return. Saying that they would be much better off in other places, while he's selling Gaza as this wonderful place that he's going to build. It's going to be so good that they're not going to be invited back. Despite the White House trying to walk back his comments, Trump doubled down on permanently removing Palestinians, while nobody is receptive to the idea other than Netanyahu. And no one is open to taking Palestinians in. Trump is now open to relocating some of them to the United States. Did you vote for that? When you voted for Trump, did you vote to bring Palestinians into the United States? So the world watches as Trump attempts to turn geopolitical strife into a personal business venture with potentially devastating consequences for regional stability and Palestinian identity. Trump is talking about dumping 1 million Palestinians into the country of Jordan, which already has 6 million Palestinians there. If that happens, the Palestinians take over Jordan, right? So you've put them from having a little piece of property to a much bigger piece of property. Egypt, Europe, and other Middle East countries have come out strongly against this. Where is Doge on this spending? This is what's happening. They're going to import Palestinian refugees to America. This is the plan. Trump has unlimited tax dollars and Federal Reserve notes so he could bribe other countries to go along with this nonsense. Now, of course, I'm totally against all of this. Look, we need to take care of our own homes. You know, we have so many cities in this country and towns, small town America that's been totally gutted out. And, you know, the last thing we need to do is to start taking care of other countries. Start rebuilding elsewhere. I get it. Look, Trump and his billionaire friends, they see a lot of opportunity there. You know, if we could just sweep these people into the ocean and steal the land, you know, hey, you're getting the land for free. You know, of course you're going to make money. You know, let's not forget who Trump was. You know, when Trump built, it reminds me of the story where there was a woman in New Jersey and Trump was building a casino. And the woman refused to sell. Everyone else sold but this one woman. And she says, no, I want to live out the rest of my days in my house. And so Trump tried to sue her, tried to use eminent domain. He tried stealing the property. And the woman fought him and won. He did not get the property. So what he did was he had to build around the house. But, you know, that's who Trump is. You know, Trump, he doesn't care how big or small you are. If you look, there's a family in, I believe it's where his golf course is Ireland. And there, he cut the water off to this family. When he built this golf course, he has water rights. And what he did was he cut the water off because he wanted the property. Now, does that sound like a guy who cares about the little guy? You know, look, he's a businessman. This is what he does. He doesn't care how big or small you are. He's going to crush you until he gets what he wants. And, you know, whether if it's one little old lady, a family, or 2.2 million people, it doesn't matter. There's a business opportunity, and that's what that's about, unfortunately. Now, of course, we're going to talk about pennies. You know? So, look, I have my pennies, and Trump's penny purge. Look, I've always said Republicans and Democrats make no sense to me, and now they're really making no sense. Literally. Now, it's just so ironic that today happens to be Abraham Lincoln's birthday, the 16th president. Born on February 12th, 1809. Now, for all the talk, you know, because every time Republicans talk, they always bring up Abraham Lincoln, because he was like the first Republican. And, you know, he won the Civil War. But, truth be told, that today I didn't see nothing on there. Nobody mentioned Lincoln today. Nobody gave a damn about him. They only use him when he's politically viable for them to use him. You know, and...
Bobby, excuse me, Bones. Great show tonight.
Thank you,
to be
Mr. Trump.
honest, love this guy. What a great, genuine guy. Anyway, about the pennies, we don't want pennies. Pennies are no good. We don't take pennies at Trump hotels. No pennies at Mar-a-Lago. Make America penniless again.
Oh, yeah.
Good
Yeah.
night, Bobby Bones.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, President Trump. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, we'll definitely become penniless at the rate the Federal Reserve is going and the government. But what is really happening here? Is this really about the penny? Or is this a prelude to the cashless society, right? Remember when pennies bought you bubblegum? Okay? Now there are relics in a world where inflation has rendered the dollar worthless. And zinc, not copper, is the penny's core. A fitting metaphor for Washington's thin veneer of honesty. Critics scream efficiency, but it's all a smokescreen for the technocrat billionaires pulling Trump strings, eager to usher in a de facto central digital bank currency without a label. Now it takes 3 cents to make a penny. But the problem isn't the penny or the people who make them. The problem is the size of government and the Federal Reserve, who has simultaneously destroyed the value of the currency. Pennies created before 1981 had real copper in them. These pennies, this is $10 worth of pennies. So it took the government $30 to make this $10. Now, these are filled with zinc. This is garbage, right? I want real money. This is not real money. This is garbage.
You're right. It's really not about the pennies. God, he's on to me. Cal, his people. Get this guy on the phone.
So, so the central banks continue to debase the currency, okay, to keep up with federal spending. So they strip the penny of their precious metals to create counterfeit pennies. That's what these are. These are counterfeit. Just like our banknotes are counterfeit, just like your quarters and nickels and dimes are counterfeit. Quarters before 1964 were silver, right? Today, an ounce of silver is roughly $31, $32, which is very cheap compared to gold, right? That's knocking down $3,000 an ounce. But what is a quarter worth, right? How much money has a quarter lost in the past 10 years, 20 years, 30 years? The goal of the corporate and political gods is to make us all cashless, penniless, and digital slaves. So, again, we have to go back to sound money. We have to go back to, what is issued by the Constitution. The Constitution demands our money be coined, backed by gold, okay? There is nowhere for a central bank, okay? You can't say you're for capitalism, you're for free markets, you're for limited government, when you allow a dozen or so people to dictate how much your money is, how much money gets printed, who gets the money, right? That's not freedom. That's not choice, right? That's not a free market-based economy. That's central planning. So it's not that zinc, copper, and gold are going up in price that's the problem. The problem is the value of the dollar going down. And that's the problem that Republicans and Democrats don't want to tackle. The goal of the corporate and political gods is to make us cashless and penniless digital slaves. The argument that they made to destroy the penny will be the same argument that destroyed the rest of the currency and turn us into digital slaves. The problem isn't the penny, it's the central banks destroying the currency to keep up with the never-ending growing Ponzi spending sprees by the Keynesians in Washington, D.C. If you bring back sound money and sound fiscal policies, you could easily make pennies great again. And look, I have been making this argument. Anybody who knows me on Facebook for over, I've been on since like 2007. I've been making this argument and I've been yelling as loud as I could that in order to fix people's wages, in order to fix prices, in order to fix the economy, right? We need sound banking. We need sound currency again, right? We need banks to create currency, states to create currency, to compete, right? To actually have a treasury, okay? Not, right, when you have a vault, right, that it's got gold and silver backing it, right? That it's not just paper and IOUs and debt. I found it funny that the Federal Reserve just got done doing a stress test on the banks. And of course they passed, because they pass every time. And just to let you know, they passed even in 07, 08. Right before the crash, right? Because their scenarios are complete BS, right? Wait, now that pennies are an issue, soon he will say we do not need Social Security. Elon is getting to cut that soon. Yeah, well, look, apparently this 150-year-old's getting payments. Look, I'm getting to Elon right now. It's funny that you mentioned that, Marie, and I appreciate you bringing that up. Look, Elon is watching Elon, and apparently Republicans are good with that. You know, look, I'm all for efficiency. I mean, who is not for cutting waste in government, right? Look, as a libertarian myself, I want government so small I can't even see it. That's my perspective. However, how you get there, you have to follow the Constitution to get there. And we're just not doing that, right? And so, I'm all for cutting government and going after fraud, waste, and abuse. However, we need real oversight into what Elon and his people are doing inside the Treasury and the federal government. Nobody, including myself, should have unfettered access to everyone's personal and financial records. What are Republicans going to say when a Democrat wins, because the Democrat's going to win, and they put George Soros in there? Or they put, Nancy Pelosi in there, or somebody that they really hate, right? What are you going to say? What can you say, right? I remember when Obama was signing executive orders for like the first couple of days, and Republicans were coming out. John Boehner came out. This is unconstitutional, blah, blah, blah. I agreed with John Boehner. It is unconstitutional, right? Nowhere in the Constitution do you have a right to these executive orders. It's not in there, right? Just like a czar. This whole Doge organization, it's not in the Constitution. Nowhere does the president have these powers to just magically create stuff. Just like Biden didn't have the power to just magically say, oh, your debts are forgiven. Just like the government doesn't even have power to loan you money in the beginning. But, the Constitution is just this pieces of paper that nobody wants to read, right? They all want to interpret it how they want to read it. However, for libertarians like myself, people who tell the truth, right, on the Constitution, we understand what the Constitution says because the fucking thing is written in English. I don't know why Republicans and Democrats don't understand that, but it is. It's written in English, okay? So, if somebody can tell me where all these powers are coming from, that you can have czars and unfettered executive orders, and you could create a Doge, no matter how wonderful you think it is, where are these powers? Because you better believe every time one side takes a step over the Constitution, the other side will take a step even further. Elon and Trump have made huge accusations regarding spending, but they have not shown any proof yet. I personally would like to see Elon continue his work only if there's an independent counsel or oversight committee. I want Elon to show his books, show his finances. He really should detach himself from his companies, right? He shouldn't be able to trade on Wall Street, trade his businesses, get government grants or loans while he's in there. Okay, how Republicans who claim to be conservative don't get that? I don't understand. Take your rose club glasses off. Look at what's going on, because you don't think Democrats aren't going to pull this stunt when they get in? You are fooling yourself. Follow the Constitution. Go after Mike Johnson. Go after Congress. If you want this stuff looked into and cut, have Congress create this committee. Have Congress dismantle government. That's where it's supposed to happen. Make the president sign it. Make these people do their job. Doge was originally supposed to give recommendations, but it is Congress that is supposed to cut spending. Right now, Congress is impotent. They need Viagra. They need, I don't know what they need. But where are these people? They claim to be constitutionalists. They claim to respect, freedom and independence, but in liberty, but yet you're just going to just because you agree. Look, I agree if what Elon is saying is true, that all of this corruption is happening, that's great. But let's do it right. Let's not trample all over the Constitution to do it. That doesn't make me, anti going after this stuff. No, that's great. Let's go after it. If it has the proper channels to do it. Now, the biggest hypocrisy, because I watched him and Trump give that ridiculous press conference together with Elon's kid named X. But I love how Elon said that we need to pull back on unelected individuals that are unaccountable. That's his words. Well, he is an unelected individual that is unaccountable. He is worse because, look, most people in government don't even have a fraction of the power that Elon has right now. Whether if we think he's doing a good job or not, he has unfettered access. He's got 20-something-year-olds. We don't know. They could be creating this stuff, right? Where are the receipts? Where are the original receipts for this stuff, right? He could just be creating some payment that went to a 150-year-old. I want to see the actual proof before I'm on board, and I want to see Congress get to the bottom of this.
Bubby, it's Elon. If you keep dropping knowledge like this, I'm afraid I won't have a job. Buddy, new Tesla? Buddy?
Yeah. So look, again, as a libertarian, I have been talking about cutting government for the longest time. I'd be a hypocrite if I said I didn't want that. We need to cut government, right? Government is too damn big, too damn wasteful. Most of the things government doesn't follow the Constitution, right? Look, Social Security is a complete Ponzi scheme. Somebody had mentioned about Social Security. It is a Ponzi scheme ran by the government. Now, should we just kick people off Social Security? Of course not, right? I'm not a masochist. I'm not some freak who just wants to just ruin people, right? But we need to means test it, right? Trump shouldn't get a check. Elon shouldn't get a check. I believe people with, if you have over $1 million in assets, I'm sorry. We can't give you a check. When FDR created Social Security, okay, if you owned a business, okay, you never paid into it, and you never got a check. Why? Because even the socialist FDR understood that, hey, if you're smart enough to own a business and hire people and create products, you're probably smart enough to save money, right? But then what happened was the program got so out of control that then they had to add in business owners, right? And so, look, we need to find an off-ramp for Social Security. I believe people on the lower scale should get more, right? But we need to fade out the younger people, right? I think people under 30 years and younger, we got to stop having them pay in. It's completely corrupt that we're stealing from them to pay people that are on it now. And let me be honest with you. There's an awful lot of people, even in my neighborhood, okay, who get Social Security and they golf all day, okay? They pay the bar tab, right? They're taking trips all over the place, right? That's not what Social Security was for. Look, if you came up and you did great in life, right, that's great. That's part of being American, right? That's the American experience. However, we can't give you basically a welfare payment, right, when you reach a certain level of wealth, right? That's not what that was for, okay? Same thing with Medicare, right? Right? You have so much in assets, right? You should be able to take care of yourself, right? We should not be sending checks to people like Bill Gates or, all these other, rich multimillionaires and billionaires. It's completely ridiculous. So, we got to reform this stuff. This is great, but where the hell is Congress? So any questions or anything? Let's see. What do we have? I'm all for cutting waste. Yeah, that's right, Marie. Marie, you are 100% right. Again, we can have an open-spirited debate on this stuff and respect other people's opinions, even if we don't agree, right? The people who need Social Security, okay, I have them in my family. Okay, they're on Social Security. My mother, she needs it, right? Right? So what we should do is focus on the people who need it and kick the people off who don't need it, and kick, obviously, if there's somebody 150 years old, which I do not believe that story. That story sounds to me as fake as the condoms in Gaza, okay? Which turned out to be Gaza in Africa, okay? In Zambezi, or whatever that country is. Zambezi. So totally different Gaza, right? But again, let's not let facts get in the way of stuff, because now you have half the country that believes we paid for condoms for Palestinians or Hamas. I mean, this is the problem with our media. This is why we need to turn to alternative stuff, and have open, respectful conversations with each other, again, disability. I agree, Amy. Disability needs to be reformed, right? People who get disability should be people who are bedridden, right? People who have incredibly mental challenges where they can't perform duties, right? It should, look, I told the story, I think in my first or second episode. I have a friend whose brother was a truck driver. And I found out he's on disability. And he's like 40 years old. And he's a strong guy. And I said, why is he on disability? Did he get hit by a truck? Did he fall out of a plane? What happened to him? Well, it turns out he doesn't want to take orders from his boss. That's why he's on disability. I mean, that's completely ridiculous, right? Look, I have a lot of people who work for me in my companies, and I've hired a bunch of people who have disabilities. People missing a foot, people who have back injuries, people who have missing an eye, right? And you know what? They do their work, right? They get paid very good, right? They work hard. They work better than some people I see that have everything going for them, right? Because they have something to prove, right? They have pride, and they don't want to take the money. They could get it, but they don't want to take it. The problem is, we have a lot of people who think that they deserve something that they don't, and the government encourages them to take it. So yeah, we need to reform disability Social Security as well. But again, we need Congress to do that, not Elon. Elon can point out the problems. That he's allowed to do. But he has to be confirmed. He has to be looked into. He has to have accountability. He can't just be accountable to himself. That is complete malarkey, okay? Nobody should have that kind of power. Even Trump, to some level, has accountability, okay? He has accountability to the citizenry, okay? So we need to end this ridiculous thing about creating czars or creating, these people who, consider themselves above everyone else. No, wrong. We have a system in place, okay? And that system needs to have checks and balances attached to it, which the government is in charge. The Congress is supposed to say what checks go out and what checks don't. Okay, so now we've done the Elon thing. Any questions or anything? Lazy people, it mostly started at COVID. Well, Amy, it's funny because one of the Republicans' big hero, Ronald Reagan, is the one that started disability. And look, it was based on, like all programs, they're based with good intentions, but every government program ends up getting abused once people figure out how to get it, right? How can I get this program? And whether if it was COVID checks or, disability or, you know, something, some housing, you know, subsidy. People will always find a way to get around the system and game it, right? But again, it's Congress's fault for creating this stuff. It's Congress's fault for not creating oversight. It's Congress's fault for allowing all of this to happen. And so...
Bobby, it's me, Tony Soprano. I say we take care of this problem the old school way. Me, you, and a couple guys from the old neighborhood. Checks and balances. Ha, ha. What do you say, buddy? Meet me at Bada Bing and we can talk about it.
Bada bing, bada boom. So, I don't know if everybody knows who Steve Bannon is, but he just pled guilty to defrauding MAGA. You know, Steve Bannon, who... Really, Steve Bannon is responsible for Trump getting elected. Him and, I forget the other guy's name. It just flew out of my head. Were responsible for Trump getting elected. Well, Steve Bannon created a fraudulent fundraiser to build the wall in 2020 after Trump lost. Several other people he was in business with went to prison, but Bannon got away because Trump pardoned him. Right? You see how this all works? Right? So, you know, I'm sorry, but I'm sick of people ripping off other people and they get away with it. Right? Why did Bannon get away with it? Because, again, you know, he's part of the connected. He's part of the group. Okay? And Trump just, you know, pardoned this guy. And so Steve Bannon just pled guilty to it. You know, the fines didn't even cover what he stole. He stole millions of dollars from MAGA voters. And MAGA voters are just cool with it. They listen to him every day. And, you know, he's got his own show. And they just love him, you know. And it's like, don't you see you were just defrauded? I mean, don't you guys don't you have any self-awareness or self-worth? Or don't you give a shit about yourself? Like, how do you watch somebody and respect somebody who just stole from your own voters? Like, it's just, to me, that's just absolutely crazy. So, but anyway, look, people can like whoever they want. And, you know, if you want to support somebody who fraudulently stole your money, right, in this fake wall building thing, then you have the right to do that. But then if you do that, then maybe you shouldn't complain when your local citizens steal from you, like when they rob your house or something. Just let them go too, right? They might be Trump supporters. Why don't you just let them go? You know? See, this is the corruptness of, you know, letting people off. You know, you give them pardons, you know, because they're politically connected, you know. Just like when Biden, you know, pardoned his whole family. Like, it's just, the whole system of pardons has turned completely corruptive. So, thank you. So, we're going to dive into a little bit of economics because there's a lot of key numbers that came out. And this is really going to affect the economy. So U.S. consumer sentiment is plummeting as inflation grows. In January, the consumer index was expected to go from 71.1 to 72.5, but instead it dropped to 67.8, completely in the opposite direction of what all the economists were predicting. Aren't you seeing the patterns yet? Aren't you noticing that the typical economist is constantly more bullish and optimistic than the reality of the economy? You know, this is exactly what happened in 07, 08, right? This can't end. You know, I remember Jim Cramer, you know, he was telling people, buy everything in the S&P, buy everything in the Dow. You can't lose. Literally the day before the stock market crash, you know. You know, this is what you're being fed because, again, they're trying to keep all this going. truth is that housing in many markets are going down, and if it's not going down, a lot of housing markets are going sideways. And when owning a home continues to increase and the value stays stagnant, you're actually losing money, right? So we're used to, over the past couple of decades, equity, right? You build up equity in your house, so you don't mind, hey, if I got to replace a floor or a roof, no big deal because I'll get it back in equity. But when you have houses going sideways, right, or you're actually losing equity, right, you're going to be less likely to dump money in your house. So what happens is a lot of people hold back and they say, hey, I'm not going to fix that plumbing. I'm not going to fix that roof. I'll let it go. If they can even afford now to get it fixed. Because, again, to own the home has become so expensive, right? It's become so prohibitive to fix up homes that a lot of homes are going in disrepair. I talk to realtors all the time. I'm in this sector, and what they are seeing people put on the market out of desperation or just because they have to is quite astonishing. Where just a couple of years ago, back in 2022, you wouldn't see stuff like this. Truth is that most of the key economic numbers that the economists use are always a lie. People feel the crunch every time they go to the store and buy something, especially if you buy construction materials. I bought these brackets. My fence had gotten ruined by the hurricane. I get the stress. I have a PVC fence and it cracked those. Okay. Back in 2009, when I had the fence put up, each one of those brackets, okay, were $4 a bracket, okay? Now they're $21 a bracket, So just think about that, right? And they used to come 4 in a pack, now they only come 2 in a pack, right? So not only am I getting less brackets, right, but I'm spending 5 times the amount, okay, for brackets, right? And you could go down the line for everything else construction related. It is all out of control. Now, inflation expectations are shooting through the roof, hitting 4.3% in February, and was at 3.2% in January. The Federal Reserve has now stated that they expect higher than 2% inflation over the next 2 years. This is terrible for savers. This is terrible, for holding coin. This is terrible, for holding dollar-denominated assets. This is terrible for Social Security. Terrible if you're on a fixed income. And people on fixed incomes as inflation destroys your saving and purchasing power. Also, we had the economic index come out, and those numbers as well are going in the wrong direction. We went from 74 in January to 68.7. The index for consumer expectations went from 69.3 down to 67.3. Basically, every single indicator is showing a slowing economy. Slow growth with much higher prices. Stagflation is coming. This is why you need to trade your currency sitting on the sidelines for real money. Gold. And if you cannot afford gold, go for silver, right? Because silver is completely undervalued right now. Yeah, that's right, Amy. Yeah. There's a lot of people holding back. I know contractors that they've given out estimates and people aren't calling them back because they can't afford the improvements, right? And homeowners are pinched, They have rising HOAs, rising homeowners insurance, everything has gone up on them. Let's take my mother's house, for instance. It's paid off, right? But her Social Security no longer pays the bills, right? Why? Because the Federal Reserve has destroyed her check, right? Back in 2019, her check covered all the bills. Today, no longer, right? So what has to happen? Her son has to come in and help. And that's what you're supposed to do, is help out your parents, right? I help out my aunt too. She has a twin sister. Her house is paid. See, the thing about inflation is people automatically think, oh, because you don't have a lot in savings or you don't have a lot of stuff, it means that you were irresponsible. No. My mother pinched and saved, so did her sister. Their houses are paid off. It's hard. Their cars are paid off. It's hard to make the argument that people like my mother and aunt were irresponsible when they've paid off. They've done their debt to society, right? They've worked for over 40 years apiece. It should not be hard for them to buy eggs, right? It should not be hard for them to have a steak once in a while or, treat themselves, and this is what the Federal Reserve has done along with the government, destroying the currency. That's why if we followed the Constitution and went back to sound monetary and fiscal policies as the founders demanded, we could start reversing this stuff, okay? The only reason why they want to go digital, they want to destroy pennies, right? They want to destroy the dollar, is to keep buying voters, right? Every single program is a voter, okay? So that's part of the scheme. Also, if they go digital, let's say, like today, I'm going to get into that with Trump later about kicking the AP out of the Oval Office. But let's say you don't agree with something somebody in power likes, right? Let's say I speak out against Elon Musk, and now he's in charge of the digital currency, right? They could just debank me. He just hit a button, and boom, I'm debanked, right? Just like they do on these social media sites. If again, you're giving too much power to the government, right? You want to be able to have some autonomy from the government, okay? The government was there to protect you, protect your individual and economic rights. They were not there to give you free stuff, steal from your neighbor, give it to you, give it to the other guy up the street, right? Give it to somebody overseas. That's not what it's for. Look, if we come together as a group, let's say everybody on this live believes in, protecting the polar bears, right? Then we should come together as a group, okay, privately, and do that, right? We can do that. The reason why we don't do that is because the government prevents us from doing that. Because they've taken that job from us, right? Which steals from us to do that, right? We could be much more efficient saving the polar bears than the government ever can. So, the next story, they're going to do what they want, so let them buy the house. Yeah, well, that's a good perspective, Amy. I mean, look, it's sometimes it's better to just let the next person walk in the house and say, hey, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. But on the same token, just understand that they understand the cost of these repairs, and they're going to hit you and say, hey, look, there's $40,000 here, we're going to need to update it and bring it where we want it, right? That's the only trap you fall into, doing it that way. But again, with a good realtor and knowing the market, right, you should be well protected. If I'm paying top dollar, I don't want to have to do work. Yeah, well, look, if you're paying top dollar, look, you should get what you bargained for. My uncle used to say, hey, let's go get the top shelf, right? Right? There's a reason why you have top shelf, for a reason. I was talking with a buddy of mine who bought a dishwasher. I happened to buy a dishwasher also around the same period of time, just a couple of months ago. And it's funny because both of our dishwashers lasted only about 5-6 years, both of them. And and we were just kind of saying, like, how ridiculous it is, when you buy an appliance, that it only lasts 5 or 6 years. My uncle's stove, okay, was probably 40 years old. It was a gas stove. It was huge. The thing was a Cadillac. I mean, it had the chrome trim on it, big white, beautiful stove. And that thing lasted over 40 years. I dare you to go out and buy any appliance and see if it'll last 40 years. Yeah, Julie. Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, that's right, Amy, Chinese dishwasher. Well, this is the thing, is that even if, like, let's say, so like my appliance, I believe, is Whirlpool, if I'm not mistaken. And that's an American company, but the parts, again, this is why trade is so important. I really got to teach as much as I can about trade. And there's a video I recommend everybody to watch of Milton Friedman talking about making a pencil. And the thousands of people it takes, and all the countries it takes to make a pencil, right? And that it's all voluntary, right? And that everybody's working together for the benefit of others, right? That the invisible hand, right? The teachings of Adam Smith, that is how stuff gets built, right? That if I have a dishwasher that's made in America, and there's a part in Taiwan, there's a part in South Korea, there's a part in South America, and all these people are working in unison, right? They never meet each other. They don't know each other, right? And then they ship them to us, right? And then somewhere in America, we end up putting that stuff together, right? Why is that important, right? Because again, the way it works is that we look for the most efficient way to build stuff, right? Who could do it the quickest? Who could do it the cheapest? Who can deliver it, at a certain rate, okay? And all of these things coming together give me that dishwasher. Now, over time, what's happened is the quality of this stuff has greatly diminished. And the reason why the stuff is diminished is because you're basically causing an embargo on yourself. You're basically taxing yourself. Now, story number 6 fits into this because it's steel and aluminum tariffs, why they don't work, and what Canada is going to do. Autos are getting crushed as a result, and why this is bad for electric bills. Okay? The dumbest argument that I've seen is that foreigners will just eat the cost because they are so lucky to have us as buyers, which is complete nonsense. And the second dumbest thing that I've personally seen, in my opinion, is that foreigners need to sell to us. That is complete BS. They're just going to sell their goods to the second highest bidder, right? Just like, okay, Amy, or like you said that you're going to sell a house, right? If your top bidder drops out, right, what are you going to do? You have another bidder? You're going to go to the second bidder, right? That's what happens. Just like if you're selling a car or you're selling anything, right? If the top bidder gets knocked off, completely knocked off, he's out of the game, you just go to the second bidder. Trade wars are unique because when you implement tariffs, you're basically shooting your own citizens, right? It's one of the few ways of creating a war where you hurt yourself. Let me share with you how this affects my personal business so maybe you will understand the destructiveness that tariffs has and government has on small businesses. So, one of my businesses, I get aluminum. Now, Trump just put a 25% tariff on all foreign-made aluminum and steel. So, a lot of you out there in Facebook land will go, well, just get the steel from America. Well, guess what? The plates that I use, you can't. They don't make them. Okay? So what do? Do I just tell all of my employees, hey, because the opinion is I shouldn't buy them anymore from overseas because we don't make them here, I'm just going to let you all go. I mean, I'm doing good. I can live without you people. But what about my employees? Can they live without a job? Should they lose their job because I can't now buy the supplies? Right? Because that's what the opinion is. That's ridiculous, right? So, what's going to happen is, they're going to pay the 25% tariff at the border, okay? The importers pay it, right? Which then that tax goes to the Treasury, okay? Now, that 25%, okay, I'm now going to eat. Plus, it's not just the 25%. There's the sales tax that's now increased. All the other taxes along the way, right, that have gone up, right? So I'm probably going to pay 30%, 35% more, right? Because what's going to happen is a lot of people are going to rush to buy these plates that I get, okay? Because we know a shortage now is going to happen again. So, what do? Do I eat the 35%? I can't, right? First off, whose margins are that big? You can just eat 35%. You can't, right? So what's got to happen is I got to pass that cost to my customers, right? So if I'm paying 35%, that means I got to charge them more than 35%. Otherwise, I'm just breaking even on the money I'm putting out, right? Every time, if you're in business, right? This is just business 101. Every dollar you spend to invest in your business, right? You have to make money on, or you're treading water. You're losing money, right? I can't loan the government money without something in return, right? That's why I don't like the income tax, right? Because a lot of times people pay into a system, then they get back some money. That money they've loaned to the government, 0% interest, right? I want my money to work for me, right? So as a business owner, it's important that when I put my money to work, that it's actually working, right? So the increases are dramatic, right, that I have to put now on my customers, okay? So that is a direct way I'm telling you that people are going to pay more for these tariffs. Now, how long do you think it will take? Who is out there that's going to say, hey, you know what? Let's start building those aluminum plates in America. How long do I wait for that, right? That could take 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, right? To set up the factory, to set up all of the shipping supplies, right? To set up the whole network, right? It's not that easy. You think it's easy to set up a business and manufacture it and get it out? It's not, right? And here's the thing, why trade is good? Because when you do stuff like protectionism, right? Like putting tariffs on stuff, right? To protect, right? Your companies. What you're doing is you're making them less efficient, right? Look at the automobile, right? When Toyota and Honda started importing cars into our country, if you looked at the American car in the 1970s, right? They were terrible, right? As far as leaking oil, right? They fell apart, right? They weren't very reliable, okay? But once we started getting imports, then the domestic manufacturers had to up their game, right? They had to start putting out better stuff because they had competition. Competition breeds better stuff. Yeah. So, hi JR, hi everybody, thank you for joining, I appreciate you. So, again, I'm giving you a real way that the tariffs are going to affect my business. They're going to affect the tariffs that Trump just put directly affect me, okay? But they're not going to affect me. I'm passing those costs down to my customers, okay? So that's what's going to happen. But what's going to happen also, there's going to come a point where my customers say, I can't afford that. I'm not going to buy that, right? So everybody has a limit, right? So again, if I don't sell as much, right? Or if I'm not making money on everything I put out, guess what? Maybe I start telling employees, goodbye, I'm sorry, I got to let you go, right? How does that affect the economy, right? Right now, American automakers are scrambling. They don't know what to do, right? Because again, to build a car, just like a pencil, you're talking thousands of people around the world to build these parts. I did a whole episode on all the things Americans no longer make, right? And one of them was automotive parts. And 70% of all automotive parts come from outside of the country, okay? So even if you have a GM, a Ford, right? Dodge, right? 70% of those parts come from overseas, right? So when Trump puts a 25% tariff on steel and aluminum, right? Now, to fix your car, it's going to cost more, right? To build a car, it's going to cost more, right? Even if the automaker said, hey, let's build the factories in America, all those parts. First, what's that going to cost? How long does that take to build, right? You're talking years. You're talking, just incredible amounts of energy and labor. And what's the end cost of that? Are you going to get that part cheaper than you would have, or even better than it comes from overseas? Probably not, right? Because protectionism does not give you the best stuff. Yeah, I love old school cars because the parts are, they're just different. But I will tell you, even on my 67 Caddy, right, when I rebuilt it during COVID. It took me a long time to get the parts because even those parts were being remade overseas. And I did not want to put, foreign stuff in my 67. So we had to hunt for what we call in the business new old stock, which I paid a fortune for stuff. But I have the right GM parts in there. And that's what's going to have to happen. Countries that don't trade look like Cuba, right? Cuba is the perfect example why you want trade. North Korea is the perfect example why you want trade, right? You want open markets, right? Now, so you're going to say, yeah, but Bobby, we can't compete with them. We can't compete with China, right? Well, why can't we compete with them? Well, look at our labor laws. Look at all of the government that we have to pay for, right? When I hire somebody, okay, I am taking a risk, okay? That's why I avoid hiring people. I stopped hiring people. Just like I stopped renting out homes, right? I went over that story a few episodes ago. Because government has made it so prohibitive, okay? And has made things so screwed up that I said, no, I'm getting out of this. I don't want to do this anymore, right? So my employees have been with me for many years, and if they die, retire, or take off, I'm not replacing them unless the government changes a lot of things, because I don't want to take that kind of risk. And that's what a lot of business owners, small business owners, they don't want to take the risk. It's way too costly. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you. So look, I have, one more little story. Wait, let me think here. What do I have? You know what? I'm going to share this with everybody because there's some people on here that have not heard this yet. but it's called apples and avocados, okay? And why trade is great for everyone. Let's say you have two countries, and one country has the perfect soil, water, air temperature to build apples. And you have another country that has the perfect air, water, and soil to build avocados, right? Now, if either country tried to make both, right, you'll end up with less crops, right? Because they're not ideal for both, right? So you're going to have massive loss, right? You're going to use all your energy, all that time and money wasted, right? So, when you have trade, right, and here you have the country that's great at making apples, focus on making the apples, and then you have another country that's perfect at making avocados, make the avocados, what happens is everybody ends up with abundance, right? We end up with more apples and avocados to now trade with. The problem with the United States is that we're not making any apples, right? When other countries send their avocados to us, right? We send them empty trucks with nothing but paper, right? Paper that really nobody wants, right? Think about it. The whole purpose, right? When you get your Social Security check or you get your paycheck, right? Or you put your money to work, right? The whole purpose is to be able to get stuff with that money, right? That's the whole purpose, right? The purpose isn't to just stack money, right? The purpose is to, raise your family, go on a trip, afford to get stuff, right? The stuff is the value. The paper, you can't do nothing with, right? These pennies, they don't mean anything, right? It's what you could do with the pennies is that matters, right? So what we need to do is we need to make government more efficient, right? We need to allow trade, right? But make it so that we don't have $36 trillion on our back and tons of laws on top of me that prevents me from buying that aluminum or buying that steel or hiring that worker, right? Let me hire. Let me leave us alone, right? Let me hire that young person who might not be good at school. Let him get credit, right? Let that kid get credit working for a guy like me, then, give me the reward of getting the IRS off my back, right? Get rid of the income tax, right? Set us free. Set the corporate tax free, right? But you can only do that by reducing government, reducing regulations, and really getting Congress on board to get this stuff done. Look, I love everybody. I appreciate everybody. Let's try and make as many apples and get as many avocados as possible.
Bobby, down there, I have to get going. I have dinner with Elon and Little X. Listen, American doesn't need pennies, buddy. If you keep telling the truth like this, my rating is going to go down. Listen, we're going to make Gaza great, make America poor. Great again. Go Gaza. Love you, buddy.
Thank you, everybody. Listen, I love you guys. Take care. God bless. If you have not told your children or parents that you love them, go do it now. I love you. I'll talk to you later. God bless. Thank you.